Welcome to our Rolemaster Actual play session. Twilight of the Old Order is a campaign set in the world of Duranarki, the continent of men. In this gritty, cutthroat world, politics, religion, and commerce are all intertwined and reign supreme. Characters need to be both smart and ruthless to survive. We hope you enjoy our story, and, as always, may the dice roll in your favor. This is episode 97 of Twilight of the Old Order. Free from the horrors of the in-between, Twilight Party have arrived in the free city of Jebel Ritana and are planning their next move. We pick up the story as the Twilight members have just settled down in their new lodgings to their first proper meal in a long, long time. Hello, I'm Chris, otherwise known as GM Chance, and welcome to our story. Up on screen, you can see the 6 characters that are in our Twilight of the Old Order game this evening. As per usual, I'll be asking in a second or two the owners of those characters to introduce the character or characters that they'll be playing tonight. Big shout out to our loyal subscribers. Thank you very much indeed. Our numbers are continuing to track up, and as I said on a previous recording, just really appreciate the feedback, the encouragement. I don't know, just the warmth that people have shown towards our game. This is our hobby. This is something we do in our pastimes. We do it because we love it, and we really enjoy sharing our story with you. And it's just, very gratifying and really nice to get feedback and thoughts and kind words coming in. So fantastic. Pleased you're enjoying it. Please keep watching. Please keep commenting as you are. And hope you enjoy this evening's story. As per usual, we will have, as mentioned, the players introducing the character that they'll be playing, and in addition, they'll be answering one of 3 character questions that I ask in advance of each game. One of 3 questions that I put out a few days beforehand. Generally, the players will answer either 1 or 2 off camera, but they'll also answer one of these questions on camera as well. The questions for tonight are as follows. What is something about your character's background that may not be known by the rest of the party? What is something that your character has experienced since the party formed that will give your characters nightmares for the rest of their life? And why has this particular incident affected your character? And then lastly, does your character believe that might is right? And why would they answer the way they do? And kicking it off tonight is Anthony. Anthony, take it away, please.
Right, kia ora everyone. Tonight I'm covering 2 characters. My own character Ascallion, or Askel for short. He's a tall half-elf warrior mage with a very well-groomed beard. And he comes from a port city, and his favourite weapon is his trusty cutlass. Something that his character has experienced since the party formed, and it gives him nightmares, was getting 2 crossbow bolts to the back. He is very cautious now of pulling levers. That's how it's affected him.
Excellent. Cool.
Along with the physical. Additionally, I'm playing Grey on behalf of Aiden tonight. He's a silent, rugged, muscular and handsome half-elf beastmaster. Excuse me. He's very in tune with the wild and Gray is also very fond of his large axe. Something about Gray's character that I've come up with is having seen his parents murdered when he was at a young age, and then he was subsequently raised amongst wolves. He has it in his mind. He wishes to bite the throat out of the murderers.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent.
That's great.
Thank you very much indeed. Let's head to Stara.
Hello. I play Jada. She's a super tall, 6'7", stocky, high man race or Arab lay healer. Her favorite weapon is a staff? Quarterstaff. And she likes doing spells. Mostly. She's going to be answering the question, what has happened to her that's disturbed her? She put on some sort of a cloak that has a claw clasp. And I don't think she realised it's evil. So she can't get it off. When she tries, it's very traumatic for her and everyone around. And she just is very religious, so she doesn't like having this evil cloak on.
Oh, excellent. Thank you very much. Let's move to Graham.
Hi, I've got two characters. This game, first of whom is Severin Kaidegard, who is a swordsman, a Northman by birth, quite a stocky fellow, and very well dressed, sort of touch of the dandy about him. Quite a good-humoured guy when the mood takes him, charismatic, kind of natural leader, very loyal, very resilient, but with high expectations of others and a slight tendency to lecture. In terms of the questions, there's something that he's experienced since the party formed that will give him nightmares. I'm going to cheat a little bit because actually the thing that has given him the most difficulty, he was incarcerated after the person he was serving was murdered, and he found that extremely traumatic at quite a young age, and since then he's got a real fear about incarceration and would rather fight his way out of anything than experience that again. The other character I'm playing is an elf named Tanya Anastasia, a wood elf. By profession, she is a hunter, which is a subset of rogue. She's reserved, watchful, somewhat aloof, but extremely graceful and lithe. True to say, not difficult to look at. And once you get past the sarcasm and petulance, she can be very loyal, and she certainly is to the party. But, there's a bit of spikiness and snobbishness to deal with too. But she is an absolute dead shot with a bow, which is her primary weapon, and also has a good deal of sneaky skills that she can bring to the party. In terms of a question, I suppose the experience since the party's formed that give her nightmares is relatively recently, and that's the death of her father. So it came as a real crushing blow to her, and she's not really over it yet. She's had plenty to distract her, however. But that's probably the particular incident that's given her a real shake. She's very family oriented, and her father was very much the head of the family and someone she looked up to.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Lastly, Pete.
Got it all. I'll be playing Nicholas Dunlevy. He is a common man, and he is a mentat, which is a mentalism spell user. He's a very mild-mannered and unassuming and sort of fades into the background sort of person. He's, doesn't like to be noticed and prefers to sort of keep to himself and let the fighters do the fighting. He's quite a bookish type, and sort of, his pastors in sort of scholarliness and research and things like that and learning. So to answer the question, what sort of experiences will give him nightmares? Well, basically everything that's happened since he joined the party. So he joined the party by adventuring off, having to sort of fulfill some sort of barbaric sort of coming of age task sort of thing for his family, an honour thing, which he doesn't particularly value. But he had to do it, drag him away from his home city. And then he just got caught up in all of these sorts of things he does not like. So physical danger is something he's not particularly interested in. Being outdoors is something he's not particularly interested in, really. And so being hunted through a swamp, being without food, thinking about starving, having stuff like leeches drop on him, watching members of his party die, then going through having to traverse a battlefield, being chased by secret agents and spies of a mysterious organization. Not great at all. Having to then kill sort of one of those spy masters and then stow away on a boat. Not great either. But sort of, I suppose more recently, a very traumatic experience is sort of being whisked away somehow, still don't know how, still quite astounding, to this purple place where the mist was, the fifth place, the in-between. How did we get there? Why did we get there? I mean, I'm sure the parties, we've all been discussing it, but it's like very odd. And sort of insecure making, if that can happen to you at any point, that's doesn't make for a good night's sleep, really. And then all of the horrors that we encountered there were pretty traumatic, sort of culminating in that dreaded whatever it was that we fled from in the ruins of the last place we ended up in. I can't remember the name of it. It's the Righteous Wing place. That was pretty scary as well. So all of that's pretty overwhelming. He is a mentally resilient sort of person. And I'd say that he's been processing this, but it certainly has made him want to... he's improved his short sword skills, shall we say.
Excellent. Yes. Yes. A tad traumatic, to say the least, particularly for someone that doesn't like the outdoors. The good news is now he is indoors. Fantastic. Thank you, one and all. Well met. I say it each time, but I always love this part of the game. I always learn a bit more as the GM. So there we have it, folks. Dear viewer, those are our 6 characters. And let's see what happens to them this evening. And there is an absolutely stunning image that was put up last session of Askell, who had inherited these absolutely spectacular earrings. And I just love that, Graham. Thank you for posting it. Okay, so it's been 7 weeks. 7 weeks in real time since I, as the GM, sat down and played with this group of players. I have been off gallivanting around South America over that period of time. I'm now back in my hometown, the town I live in Auckland, and we're underway with this game, picking up of where we left off 7 weeks ago. So each session, for those that are new to the channel, I do a recap. I'm going to touch on probably a bit longer than I'd normally do tonight because it has been quite a period of time, a long time between drinks, as they say. I'll then ask for any questions from the party that they may have, any qualifying questions, anything I've missed, basically, and then we jump into the session. Just as a quick heads up, it'll be a bit of a shorter session tonight, as some of the players need to head off. So yeah, let's see how we go. All right. So where we began last time was the players leaving the in-between, and Pete, you described for Nicholas this strange netherworld place called the in-between that you and your companions have experienced. On the way out, you leaving it, going through the gate, the gate you hoped would lead you back to your own world, your own time and place. You were confronted with this reeling smoke, these kind of strange smoky tentacles, both black and white, reeling tentacles, and some really both horrible sounds and horrible kind of visions and sensations. Kind of below you was a black heaving mass, the abyss, the creatures howling and snarling below, and then above you were beings that were terribly, horribly, ridiculously beautiful, terribly beautiful, and both of these groups meant you ill. And there's a bell off in the distance of the town. I'll just switch that down for a second. There we go. And there's a camel. That was for a split second, and then you travelled through another place with kind of stars moving and shifting around you, and then wham, you found yourself back into sensation for a start. The very first thing you experienced was heat, warmth, moisture. You were back actually experiencing temperature and sensations that you hadn't felt for a very long time in the in-between. In the in-between, you hadn't been cold or hot, you hadn't felt hungry or thirsty, you had just simply been. And then suddenly, you were back in a really humid environment. You could hear the noise of what appears to be a market outside. You could hear it. And yes, you were suddenly somewhere very, very different. When you arrived, you were confronted with a group of gentlemen that looked like this, and were led by this man here, who appeared to be some kind of officers or city watch or city guard. Once you'd basically overcome your pretty traumatic experience of rocketing through space and time and whatever means took you magically via the fifth place to where you are now, you were introduced to this man here, or he introduced himself to you rather. His name excuse me. He introduced himself as Farhad al-Namla, and he's a captain of the City Watch. What city? You discover it's the city of Jebel Ratana. Actually, exactly the place that you had hoped to end up, where Nicholas had touched a point on a map, and indeed it appears that you'd got that one correct, or he had got that one correct, and you were in the place that you wanted to be. After some discussion, interrogation, if you will, Farhad and his soldiers discovered in your possessions quite a number. I forget exactly how many, but I have got it written down. Quite a number of ingots, which the characters had recovered from the in-between. Quite strange ingots. Farhad expressed some degree of interest in these and some degree of skepticism that you were who you said you were. And after some discussion, an agreement was reached where he and his troops took you close by to a nearby bank. You were given a receipt for those ingots, some gold and silver apparently, or certainly strange-looking metals. And proof was asked of who you said you were via one of Askel's contacts, a woman by the name of Dina Abdulaziz Al-Fald, back in the city of Shabibi, back in the Empire of Thumazul. It'll take approximately 10 days for words to be reached and then returned to see if this person Dina, can actually vouch for who Askel says he is. Assuming that's the case, Captain Farhad has dutifully agreed to hand over the ingots to you. Once you left the care of the good captain, he and three of his soldiers, he remained with his soldiers, but you went out, and these soldiers were accompanying you to your lodging house. Not knowing the city, they very kindly decided to escort you and perhaps keep a bit of a weather eye on you as you went through the city streets. A quick aside, a number of you, as you had come out and you had experienced this strange kind of smoke and horrible sensations. Jada, you in particular had a particularly interesting experience with that. A number of you had felt the strange burning sensation on your hands, and sometime afterwards, later, out in Jeb Irina, you inspected your hands, and those that were affected had these strange marks, either this one, or this one on the palm of each of your hands. You head out into the streets with Farhad's men as they escort you to your lodging. And you had, unfortunately, an interesting run-in with this critter here. All of a sudden, and I've got it up on screen just to refresh your memories, all of a sudden you were walking down this street here, and this creature leapt down off this building here and appeared to be highly indignant about all manner of things, but also looked particularly interested to eat a couple of people here. Through some excellent work from the party, the beast was able to be restrained or retained without bloodshed. Thank goodness. And shortly after this creature, very, very large animal, would stand probably nearly up to a person's, certainly up to a person's waist, nearly up to their chest, and quite long, a good perhaps 8 to 9 feet long, a big animal. This gentleman here, where is he? This gentleman here came rushing in and appeared to be the owner of this strange animal, and was initially this person here demanding at first, "Don't you know who I am?" Was mollified by the fact that his creature, this massive cat, was actually only sleeping rather than dead. After that bit of excitement, you were escorted off to your accommodation, and I'll come to your accommodation in a second. I'll just quickly to note, it's called the Grand Bazaar Lodge, and indeed, when this cat suddenly leapt off the roof, you were indeed skirting the major bazaar. You came back into the bazaar and to your lodging in a second. Just a little bit about the city that you find yourselves walking through. It's quite a cosmopolitan place. It appears to have a real mix of a lot of, I guess you'd say, Arabic type people that are speaking Haradanian, but also there is a fair number of, and I'll just do it on here, a fair number of Eastern people from the Sun Kush, or the Easterling kings. There seems to be quite a spread of religion too. Street scene. There are, by the way, very few beggars that you've seen. It's a remarkably clean and tidy city, comparatively. There are a few beggars, and there are a few people who are clearly impoverished or down on their luck, but by and large, not large numbers. And relatively well-maintained streets. Buildings seem to be in pretty good order. The City Watch, Captain Farhad's men and others appear to be well-disciplined, well-made, decent uniforms, etc. There are some others that are neither Arabic of descent or Easterling kings of descent, but the majority are probably, that you've seen, are probably of Arabic descent, with a good number, a good percentage of Eastern people. In terms of religions, you've seen a good number up and around. This is a free city after all, where people are, the only major rule in life is commerce. But by far and away, the most predominant religion you've come across is the sign of El Tumar, which is, and this particular sign that's up on screen is the sign of Kasam, who is the god of death, judgment, and the afterlife. But there are of course others. Just some other street scenes and a bit of a vibe. Some other slightly stranger religions that perhaps you're not familiar with. That's the El Tumar the main Altuma symbol, which certainly Askell and Jadar are very familiar with. Another one again, another street scene. Kind of a bit of a vibe, across the city. That's the main kind of architecture that you're seeing. Again, a few more street scenes and a few other people that you see. Strange gods, etc. One last thing that you do take notice of, and I didn't mention it in last session, but I certainly am drawing your attention to it now. What you notice by looking up is this comet, and you've been aware of it for quite some time. You've heard it called different stories, the Iron Shower and various other things. Previously, animals seem to be quite upset by it. Certainly, before you went into the fifth place, it was only visible at night or maybe slightly during the day. Now, you can actually see it with the naked eye, not very strongly, but you can see it during the day. A red comet going across the sky. You end up at your accommodation, the Grand Bazaar Lodge. Just a couple of images. I didn't show you this last time. It's probably it's a very it's certainly a pretty well-to-do establishment. It's quite interesting because it's on the Grand Bazaar, hence the name. But also, as you come into its premises, there's actually kind of almost a mini bazaar in its courtyard. And the vendors in that kind of courtyard area, as you come into the building complex, tend to be quite upmarket. And the products that they sell are definitely very high quality inside the actual building itself. The building is, just a quick description, it is a very grand 3-story inn made out of stone and wood with an ornate facade and a bustling courtyard, as I mentioned, full of shops and vendors. It has a mixture of both luxurious rooms and very well appointed rooms, and also some of the more basic. And the more expensive rooms feature both balconies and baths. You have elected, particularly after a horrible experience that you've had, to pay a very princely sum of 1 bronze piece per person per night. But that's for a private room each, which is a bit unusual. Well, certainly quite a luxury. And each of these rooms has its own privy, and also a nice balcony. And I'll show you pictures of some rooms in a second. The lodge also offers a bathhouse, which is a communal bathhouses, unusually enough a gymnasium for some people like to get exercise, and also of all things a pool. One of the main features that you notice coming into the space, the main area, the common room, if you will, is there's a very, very large performance space, a dais of perhaps 15, maybe 20 foot high, in the middle of quite a luxurious room, which would be eating and drinking and kind of more of a restaurant than a tavern room, and reasonably opulent as well. Your host, the person that greets you, is this man here. His name is Alim. He doesn't have a sword, by the way. Most people in the city are not armed, you have noticed. Very occasionally you see a weapon. Alim was initially very suspicious of you because you look you're dressed in rags, you're filthy, you're covered in blood, you're a mess. But thanks to some convincing words from Severin, he's welcomed you in. And just to give you a sense of what the lodge looks like, this is kind of the performance space, quite beautiful. Upstairs, there's a common dining area where you all are, and where we're actually going to begin this game tonight. And your own rooms look something like this. Not massively luxurious, but certainly extremely comfortable. And typically, a number of your rooms might have little alcoves and things like this with incense. Quite sumptuous surroundings. Certainly a lot better than the usual, many of the standard inns that you have been used to. where we begin this evening's session, I'll just quickly check my notes to see if I've missed anything else. I'm very conscious I've spoken for a long time, as I said I would. No, I think we're good. Where we begin the session is on the 13th, on the 11th of moons in the late afternoon. So all of this has happened during the day. You haven't yet slept. You're still dressed in rags, but gloriously, glory upon glory, you are in this common dining space which all of your rooms feed into on the second story, and you have just eaten and drunk to your full, which is part of the price for you staying in this accommodation. That's where we're going to begin. I did talk, as I said, for quite a while. Are there any qualifying questions? Is there anything I've missed? Anything that people would like me to go over? Nope.
Oh, yes, sorry. The market outside, well, the market in the courtyard that has clothing for sale is still going?
Yes. Yeah, there is some. Yes. Yep. Not that you paid a huge amount of attention to it when you came in. You were quite intent on getting in for a start and getting fed. You were very hungry. That hunger has now been satiated. Delicious, spicy food. But yes, you think you caught a glimpse of some clothing. Any other questions, guys?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, cool. Let's start the game. There we have it. What do you do?
Well, I think probably sleep is required. Don't you think, people?
Yeah, agree. Sleep,
We haven't
clean up.
had a lot of it. Clean ourselves up. Put on some. Make sure we've got some nice clothes to wear, so we don't look like complete vagabond. Well, currently we look at a complete state. So, cleaned up, bathed, clothed, sleep. I
Did
reckon.
you see that bedroom? Amazing. Can I stay in there and you guys just go and do the things?
Yeah, you and your demon can
Wow.
stay there, and we'll we'll go out. And,
You like that, Jada?
Yeah, look at it.
That one or that one?
Oh, either. Wow.
You are paying a bronze a night. It's a pretty large amount of money. Reasonable amount of money. Yep.
I
Okay.
think we've earned it.
We have.
Yeah, clean up, food, have to drink,
Yep.
pass out.
Yep. Some clothes.
do
Ansel
the
needs
doors
some
lock?
PowerPoints.
Oh yes, the doors. The doors lock. So you're each in your own room, roughly this that you can see on screen. Not only do they lock, they have they're very well made, extremely solid locks. There are also deadbolts on each of the doors, and there are also deadbolts on all the shutters and the windows. Well,
Right. Good to know. Well, apply those.
okay. So I took from that rest up and bathe.
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Nicholas would pop out to the inside courtyard market thing to get some clothes because he's out of decent clothes.
Okay.
So can they just deduct city price clothing?
These are relatively good. I'd say they're not absolutely ornate, but they're quite nice. So I'd say please just deduct double normal city price.
Sure thing.
Yep.
It's just one set of clothes, but he just needs something to wear that's not abysmal.
Okay. Does everybody else have wearable clothes? If not amazing.
I think Asker will probably need to follow on as well and get some.
Okay. In the courtyard there are well-made, linen or silk shirts. There are also the Arabic flowing robes, if you prefer. A range of good quality, definitely better than average, good quality but not exceptional clothing that you can purchase, as I say, for double. So Askell's doing the same. Nicholas is you go out and buy some. Pretty easy to do. Any other actions from anybody else?
I think I'll just wash my clothes and
Okay.
up to dry while I'm having a sleep.
Okay, sure. Good thing. Severin and Tanya?
Likewise, well, they both intend to do a bit of shopping, but they both got rather more discerning eye when it comes to
Okay.
what to wear. So they've both got spare clothes, so, and quite nice ones too. So they'll wear those.
Okay.
Tomorrow.
Speaking of tomorrow, after you have frankly gorged yourselves on all manner of amazing delicacies, you stagger back to your individual rooms. You wash to a certain degree. There's certainly basins and jugs in each room, and then you just collapse. Some of you were tempted to head down to the bathhouse, but you kind of decided actually that's a tomorrow job, and that's it. You just pass out. What an amazing night's sleep you have for the first time in, well, you don't know how long you've actually been in between, but you sleep and the beds are extremely comfortable. The pillows are just divine, goose feathers and incredibly soft. You don't know if there's some kinds of incantations or if there's exactly what, or maybe it's just the construction of the building. But while it's very, very hot and sticky outside, the rooms are cool is probably an exaggeration, but they're not hot. You know, they're certainly temperate, and very welcome they are too. You all sleep basically, you know, almost where you collapse coming into your rooms, and you wake the next morning amazingly refreshed, and feeling like you haven't felt in a long time. One of the big things about your night's rest was the rest, if you'll call it that, in the in-between, in the fifth place, was all on rock, because rock floors. Most of you elected to leave your bedrolls back at Afsun's refuge. Not only that, but not only were you sleeping on uncomfortable things, but there were constantly horrible noises and sinister, just a sinister vibe to the place. To sleep unmolested in a safe room has been amazing. You wake the next morning, all of you, to each other's eyes, look visibly better, refreshed. Those that needed to go up levels have now gone up levels. Everybody else has increased 8 hit points if needed. So a number of you will now be on full hits, and of course your power points have now been replenished. After a very delicious breakfast, an equally delicious breakfast, again in that common room, although you are given the option to head downstairs, you decide that definitely bathing is the next thing, and that first dip into the water, that first sensation of clean, warm water on your skin is just heavenly. You scrub using soap and brushes, etc. The filth, the grime, the blood, the mud, the dust. If you remember, our roof came down on you in the in-between, and you were covered from head to toe in filthy dust. So just to get that out of your hair, out from underneath your fingernails, to clean your teeth a bit, is just wonderfully refreshing. And you luxuriate in your bathing. You take your time, and it's around lunchtime by the time you have fully rested, bathed, put your new clothes on in some people's cases, or put your spare clothes on. I still don't know exactly how clean they'd probably be clean, fair to say, Graham, but they could probably do with a bit of a freshen up, but certainly a lot better than the rags you were wearing the clothes are good quality and in decent state, but probably could do with a bit of a freshen. And we'll kick things off again at around lunchtime when you eat for the third time. What do you do?
When is our appointment with our person we bumped into?
You
Or did he just say call round?
You're referring to the gentleman by the name of
Abdulaziz.
yeah, you got it. You got
Ali
it.
bin Simon bin Ald bin Saud.
There, thank you very much. You took the words right out of my mouth. Thanks, Pete. I've got it. I was just looking for his word, his name right here. Thank you. Yes. He had said to you. Well, actually, he hadn't said. If you recall, he had basically just asked if his cat was all right. And then kind of nodded at Severin when he got affirmation that was the case, and then just kind of stalked off. And it was actually one of his underlings, one of his very, very large servants, bodyguards, whatever, armed with a sword, which is interesting enough, who had informed you that his master would welcome you to visit. Everybody knows his house. And there would be a reward waiting for you for your good deeds of basically making sure that the cat wasn't murdered. His name, yes, correct. Ali bin Salman bin Fawd bin Saud.
I think it'd be a good idea to do that sooner rather than later, so it's fresh in mind. But also, I think we should be dressed impeccably when we go, just to make the right impression. So I think both Severin and Tenya would ask at reception at the location of a nearby suitable shop for finery, and go there and buy themselves some new kit, so they look quite swish and are suitably dressed to go and visit and be welcomed at a person with that stature.
Okay.
Nicholas would accompany them. Of like mind.
What do you think? Gray, Askell, and Jadar. What are you doing?
Yeah, I'm coming.
Right, so that means we've got to hold Gray down and put a shirt on him. Actually, I'm going to ask. Severin's going to ask Gray if he wouldn't mind dressing up with a shirt.
Ooh.
I think Gray would probably look a little bashful about it, like confused, and look down at his manly chest and.
Severin would gently explain why in short sentences.
Gray has actually got a little bit more educated, by the way. Gray has started to learn to read, and you have noticed that I think it's his south tongue has got a little bit better. But yes,
I think Gray would look to like drape like a scarf across his chest and smile.
Severin will help him shop. and suggest he would look lovely in this little silky number over here.
Just a reminder, because it's 8:15.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, it is too. Okay. You guys have a think about what you want to do, and the GM will really super quickly. It's meant to be 4 minutes, so Pete, I'm really going to ask you to hold me to this, and I'll do my very best to keep it to this. For new viewers of the channel, Rolemaster, the system that we play is an old system. It dates back to the 1980s. Pete, click the go button now, please. It's an old system, dates back to the 1980s. It's not widely played today. I started playing it in the 1980s and fell in love with it and basically have never stopped. But aware that we're aware that it's not a commonly played or well-known system today. So for 4 minutes in each game, I pause and do a bit of a deep dive. I do a deep dive into one aspect of the rules. I post a question or a questionnaire on the YouTube channel asking which topic we will discuss this time, and the votes from actually last time, prior to going overseas, for me came back. The result was melee combat. So a bit of a quick touching on how melee combat in Rolemaster works. Actually, Pete, you might have to start your 4 minutes now. Sorry, restart. I was framing that up a little bit. The other thing that the person asked, it was one of our regular listeners, asked about how to handle weapon katas. What is a weapon kata? A weapon kata is a martial artist's basically additional attack or attack that's woven into a strike or a sweep and a throw using a weapon at the same time. I'll answer the weapon kata elements in a second, but very quickly to describe how melee works in Rolemaster. 2 things that I'm going to put up. The first is this. Now, Rolemaster has a reputation, a nickname for being known as Chartmaster, and perhaps not too unfairly, there are a lot of charts in the game. And if I was unfamiliar with how to run a game or how to play a game, let alone run one, and if I was confronted by one of these charts, I would also be perhaps a little bit puzzled and a bit intimidated. But in actual fact, the system is relatively simple, quite simple. The chart looks confusing, but the premise is pretty easy. So, each weapon, most weapons, many of the main weapons at least, have their own individual attack table. This one's one for a mace, as you can see up on the screen. Can I move it? Yep, there we go. It's a mace. But there's one for a broadsword, and there's one for a lance, there's one for a longbow, etc., etc., etc. If the specific weapon doesn't have its own attack table, it will use a similar weapon's attack table with modifications. Along the top, you'll see a set of numbers from 1 to 20. Number 1 is, these are the armor types. These are the 20 different types of armor that a person can be wearing in the Rolemaster system. 1 indicates no armor, so wearing basically extremely light clothing, maybe a shirt perhaps, and a light pair of trousers or underwear or whatever, all the way through to full plate at 20. The different sets of columns, this first one is no armor or animal hide, the next one is soft leather, the next one is rigid leather, the next one is chain, and the last one is full plate. How the system works for combat is an attacker will roll a D percentile, so a result between 1 and 100, and they'll add on their skill with the weapon and then any other modifiers that come into it. So, for example, the person that they're trying to hit's ability to dodge or terrain variations or whatever. And based on their role and on their skill and other things and other modifications, there'll be one of 3 results that come up. A 0, meaning the weapon didn't connect with the foe or didn't do any damage. A second result, and we can see there are a couple of 8s, where the weapon does hit point damage. So hit points are a very common construct across most role-playing games. I think most people will know what a hit point is. And then lastly, a third type of damage is a critical. So you'll see there where the cursor is, 8 in an A, crush. And it's changed, instead of a C, we use a K for crush. And a critical is just that. It's critical damage, and it can be potentially fatal. So in this game, it is completely and utterly possible to one-shot, one-kill a person with 1 hit if you're lucky on the critical. You can also slay someone else from hit points as well. So criticals go up in severity, A being the least severe, followed by Bs, Cs, Ds, and then lastly, and the most lethal, Es.
Excuse me a moment, it's time.
Yeah, I thought it would be. Thanks, Pete. So in this case, let's say a person was hit with a mace, and they were wearing no armor, and they got the maximum result possible. That would be 23 hit points in E critical. What does that mean? They lose 23 hit points. In Rolemaster, an average human male might have between 35 and perhaps 40, maybe 50 hit points. So one hit with a mace would nearly be half their hit points, or potentially all of their hit points. If a critical is achieved, we go to the crush critical table, and we look at this, and we have along the top, I mentioned A, B, C, D, and E. Again, we roll a D percentile, and we get a critical result. A low result is, in this case for an A, a zip, or 1 hit, 2 hits, or let's say we did the E critical 3 hits for a very low result. That's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All the way down to the most severe that you can do, which is 100, and there's the result. Crushed foe's hip, plus 35 hits. Foe is stunned for 2 rounds, then active for 4 rounds at negative 30, then dies of nerve damage. Or the next one up, crushed foe's skull, plus 30 hits, opponent dies immediately, etc, etc, etc. Rolemaster is a very, very, very brutal game. Death can come, frankly, just from an unlucky critical roll. Characters need to be smart and canny and lucky in terms of how they survive. So that's essentially it. Roll on the table for the weapon, and then if a critical result is achieved, roll on the critical result and follow basically what the table says. Looks complicated. Actually, once you've got the hang of it, it's not hard at all. Over time, as per usual, I'm going to give kind of a bit of a non-answer for the viewer that was asking about how do we handle weapon carters in this game. My non-answer is I don't. Quite simply because to date, I don't think I've ever had either a player character or in recent history a non-playing character that has used weapon carters. What I would do, and what I'll need to do when it comes up, because I'm sure it will at some stage, is go back over some of the previous editions. So this is the old edition, and that's a newer old edition. So if you can get your hands on either of those two, in either of those books, there are some really good rules, I think, some really good rules about how older versions of Rolemaster handled weapon carters. And basically the principle, the description is certain martial artists may use a weapon as part of their kata. Katas are patterns of attack and defense that form the basis of various forms of martial arts. Weapon katas may be used, etc, etc, etc. Basically, these rules blend a normal martial arts attack, so a punch or a kick or whatever, with some additional hit points to take into consideration the use of a weapon. And then if the attack is particularly strong, there'll be an additional critical as well due to the weapon. So there would be a martial arts critical, excuse me, followed up by a critical from a weapon. So, for example, in the Mace's case, there would be a crush critical of a slightly lesser degree alongside the martial arts critical. So, to the viewer that asked the question, thank you for asking the question. I'm sorry that wasn't a great answer. I would go, as I say, go back, try to track down either that or that. I can point you in the right directions. If you want to write to me directly, I can get you a copy, or I can point you in the directions of an electronic copy you can use, and hopefully that should assist you with thinking about how to run weapon carters in your game. That was a very, very long 4 minutes. Okay, there we go, guys. Back to it. We were last dealing with Gray covering up his nipples with a scarf. Further action, Severin, Tanya, Nicholas, etc. are planning to head out. Others, please.
Going with them.
Jada's off with them. Askell, Gray.
Yep. Following along everyone else.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry,
Yeah,
question, Chris.
Go.
Weaponry. Are people armed walking around?
No, as mentioned a few times, definitely not.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's
Okay.
all right. That's all right. That's all right. All good. All good. All good. A lot to take in. A lot of that was quite an information dump from the GM earlier on. So apologies. No, people are distinctly not armed. Every now and then, maybe one person out of 100 you might see with a weapon, but really, yeah, not armed.
I think Severin would like to take his pack then.
Yep.
And put his magic items in it, including his sword.
Would his sword fit in his pack? Is it a frame pack?
I don't know how big his pack is.
You tell me.
Well, he's got a lot in it, so I assume it is quite a big pack. And if not, he'll wrap it in some cloth. I mean, whatever. But yeah, I think he wouldn't leave it behind. Put it that way.
Okay. Fair to say, a sword is pretty big, and it's you could probably fit a short sword convincingly inside a pack. I would say even a large pack, you're probably going to have a hilt or something poking up the top, but you could quite easily wrap some clothing or something around the hilt.
Or he'll just buy something that has a bit more kind of given that is there an item of clothing you can wear that just draped over the top?
Yes, yeah. I mean the long flowing robes that a lot of the people of apparent Arabic descent would, depending on how you wear your sword, if you have it strapped to your leg, you could relatively disguise the fact that you're wearing a sword.
Yeah, I will do that.
Okay. Okay. So, if you wouldn't mind, as Nicholas did, there were quite a number of these vendors in the courtyard. It actually, is as part of the hotel. Pay, say, twice the amount, please, for a cloak, a hood and cloak, and he can get something. Basically, it's not by no means a perfect concealment. I think if someone was thoroughly searching you, they'd pretty quickly work out you've got a sword. But you can disguise it to a reasonable degree as you walk around.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
And I think Tanya would put her short sword and dagger in her pack.
Sure. Done.
Nicholas will ask if he can put his short sword in her pack too.
Certainly.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry. Go for it.
So yeah, suggestion was that maybe I'll say to the others, several say to the others, that we go to the aforementioned person whose name escapes me, very long, and you spin a story whereby, well, Ascol, I think you'll need to remain Ascol because you've said you are, but the rest of us use our pseudonyms and say that. Yeah, just, I guess, use the excuse of going to this chap to find out the location of where we could contact Jasir Hafiz, chair of the Solar Council. I think probably better if we sort of say that Tanya's family has connections through M.E.R.P, but she just uses the pseudonyms, her pseudonym's name, and just say she's from a merchant family in M.E.R.P. Been advised to look him up, and since they have powerful friends in common, and leave it at that. Do you not think? And then I thought as a second question we could ask Jada. We've got to do something about your little friend. would you feel more? I presume you would feel more comfortable if we hunted out the highest religious figure of your faith in the city.
But yes, please get this monkey off my back. Yes.
But I think we got to be pretty straight in what it is there, and then you can fall upon their mercy in terms of how best to deal with it. I think, rather than just trying to get someone to look at it and then because we've obviously done this before and we made a mage's. Oh no, that was different. The other party. But yes, I think probably it ought to be. That'd be Severin's advice anyway. That actually to play it fairly straight and say, "I've got this terrible affliction. How can I be rid of it?" kind of thing.
Yeah.
And maybe the rest of us don't even. Maybe we don't all go as a party for that.
That sounds like a good game.
Is that anyone else? Any advance on that? Any other questions that we might want to ask this chap?
No, nothing from Grey or Eskel. Like I say, Grey's going to have to leave all his axes behind because they're large.
Well, they're actually they're not like battle axes. They're hand axes. So they'd be where's the camera? I always do this. Then I can't even show you because they're longer than that, but they're not huge. They'd be, they're considered a short weapon. So the actual image on screen of his axe is not quite right. It's quite a long.
Oh, yeah.
It's quite a long axe. They are shorter hand axes, so that's his skill. It's a hand axe as opposed to a battle axe. So that would be able to fit relatively easily inside Tanya's rapidly filling pack.
Right. Okay. Yep.
All right.
Yep. So Eskel's got his cutlass, but he does have a dagger he got from the Beyond. So maybe his cutlass might have to get left behind.
Okay. Again, his cutlass isn't hugely long. It's the size of a short sword, so it could also probably fit in. Tanya's pack is getting relatively heavy at this point, however.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Eskel will be right. He's obviously rested. He's got a dagger, and he's got a bit of magic.
Sure.
He'd be okay to leave us comfortable with leaving his cutlass behind.
Okay.
Tanya asks Grey if he would mind carrying the pack.
Well, there's a good idea. Yes.
She, by return, will not take her eyes off that pack, if that makes sense, Jim.
Sure. Done.
Just monitored in the city area, of concern. Anyone who goes near it, she'll set upon.
Okay. Cool.
Yep. Grey's happy with that.
So okay, cool. So weapons as noted in the pack, and carrying with Grey as noted, and Tanya keeping an eye. With yours, Severin, I mean, just trying to think. Can you walk with a sword strapped to your leg? I don't know. Maybe across your back, perhaps? Slung across your back? I think if someone was looking closely at you, I think it'd have to be across your back, thinking about it. Because it's not going to... You couldn't walk with it on your leg, because you can't straighten your leg, can you? Would you? What do you think?
Whatever. Yeah, I mean, he'll put a scarf around his neck, whatever it takes.
Okay. Yep. I mean, moderately disguised, not especially well disguised. If someone's going to probably spot it with looking, but it's not immediately obvious that you're armed. Put it that way. Okay. Just describe what you do, please, once you've made these preparations.
Well, Severin says he wonders whether they should even be... The rest of them should be servants of Tanya, perhaps. What do we think?
Yeah, Nicholas is happy to do that.
So less a band, more a group of people working for Tanya.
Yeah. Can I just ask, are the clothes Nicholas bought servants-ish clothes? I mean, nice clothes, but not flash.
Yeah. I mean, they're you know, they're certainly wealthy people's clothes, but they could pass. You know, they're not covered in jewels or gems
Awesome.
or yeah.
Cool.
So you got Eskel and Jadar, who are very fluent with Herodanian. I guess whether you want, well, I guess they'd probably understand the cultural
Yeah, definitely.
things going on here as well. So Eskel, I think, would have definitely selected clothes that make him very much like a local, blend in pretty easy. Sort of thing.
I mean, sorry.
I'd say even probably Jadar's monastery type clothes probably would have been reminiscent of the area as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is your culture. Okay, obviously the Easterling element to it isn't, but certainly the Arab part, yeah. I mean, this is the same faith as the Empire of Thamasul, where you're both from. The language is the same. The food is very similar. You're actually not far from Thamasul itself. You know, a few days travel by ship. This is, you know, the call to prayer, the religious signs, the gestures, the slang even is very familiar to you. Not exactly the same, because this is a free city and there are certain kind of spins on it that people have. But yeah, you and Jadar are feeling very much at home.
So would one of you act as a sort of interpreter?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. But it depends on how you're going to use Tanya as sort of like the main, and then a couple of servants, and then local support, bodyguards, sort of thing.
I just thought changing the dynamic of the party wouldn't hurt, you know. So yeah, if we kind of rehearse that in a space in terms of how we pretend to be deferential, and perhaps Severin and Grey could be seen to be the kind of heavies, if you see what I mean.
Yep.
Sort of standing either side of her, just behind, and then Askell and Jada perhaps more kind of up front.
Yeah.
Doing the translating. Would that work?
Just coming along as a translator, and also in town, just on our own mission, looking for family or something.
No, I think if we all say that we are, you know, we're accompanying. I can't remember a pseudonym, but whatever pseudonym we're using, who's, you know, on a diplomatic mission, or a visitor from Jebai Ratana, or sorry, no, where's she from? Mebeth. And do it that way, and then we just change the dynamic of the party around a bit. And she can fill in any of the details from her own city for you to translate, but you can ascribe them you can describe them and translate them in a culturally sensitive way.
Hopefully.
I think that might work. Unless someone's got a different way idea. I just thought rather than appearing as another band of adventurers in a region where, you know, we may be known as a band of adventurers.
I think that sounds great.
Yeah, so pseudonyms like Sandra, Aislinn.
Oh.
We did have a list of them actually, but I don't have it to hand. But
I think we switched our pseudonyms from the ones we'd been using before.
Yeah.
Yeah, possibly. Yes, new ones I think would be good. And I think Tanya will use the name, her pseudonym name, and but she won't obviously use, and she'll, you know, say she's from a trading, you know, she's not a big trader, but, you know, it's unlikely she'll get caught out, but she can talk to the city and the guilds and everything else of her home place, so she knows the business, put it that way. Would that be a baby plan? Okay, we'll do that then, Chris.
So do we need to go shopping first for nicer clothes for everyone? Well, for those who need it, and then we're off.
Yeah, I think we did that, didn't we? Or we...
Just about to.
Okay, all right.
So you've gone. So as I've had it, Askell, yes, Askell, Nicholas, and Severin have gone down to the courtyard and purchased kind of off the rack, good quality, higher quality than normal, clothing. You've had this conversation you've just had now. However, upstairs in the room, you've come to the conclusion about what your cover story is. What do you do now? Talk me through it.
Well, I think we'd like to approach the house that was in our finery, with Grey carrying weapons and Severin having a weapon as the two heavies.
Just a correlation. Just a quick check. What you're wearing is certainly adequate. It's certainly not finery. Like you're wearing good quality, but not especially wealthy clothing. Certainly not tailored or anything like that.
Can Tanya acquire some tailored clothing?
Sure, but you can buy off the rack, which is adequate, or what we talked about going to a tailor, which would be, I think your phrase was looking flash or looking swish or whatever. What you're wearing is perfectly adequate. It depends if you're wanting to look adequate or if you're wanting to look stupendous.
All right. I think Tanya should look a bit flasher, put it that way.
Okay.
So she will go to a tailor.
All right.
With her entourage.
Okay. Describe. Describe what you do. Describe.
Get a recommendation.
Okay.
From reception.
Okay.
From the house of stay, and say
Sure.
I need to sort of replenish my wardrobe. I'd like to buy some fineries. Okay. Where would you recommend?
So you've whoops, wrong chat. You've come downstairs. You've had this discussion. You've got your plan in action. You come downstairs and waiting. There's kind of a small. It's not really a bar as such. It's more like a kind of a maitre d' stand or something that you'd have someone kind of waiting, ushering, kind of keeping an eye on that large kind of common room's the wrong word. Restaurant, entertainment space, whatever it is downstairs with a quite beautiful stage. Is this man? You haven't seen him before, but as you come down and Tanya, you and your entourage, your servants, are moving towards him, and he sees you, and he actually makes a point of coming out and coming away from you. So he moves around from his stand, and before Tanya, you get a chance to say anything. He bows very low, and in pretty good South Tongue, which has been the language that you've all been speaking, he says the following: "Greetings, friends," and he's definitely kind of looking you up and down. My name is Salim Ali bin Farouk. I assist my master Alim with the running of this wonderful establishment. My master Alim has a great need to speak of you. Would you have a moment, please? Would you have time?
Certainly. Yep.
And he's okay. Any other reactions from anybody else? Oh, okay. He bows and he says, if you'd be kind enough, please, please, and he shows you to a room which opens onto this large entertainment restaurant / bar space, quite beautiful, that I showed you before. This is this room here. So Salim heads off, and he ushers you into a private room, and closes the door behind him. You'll take a seat and wait, and about 5 minutes later, moving reasonably quickly, comes the master of the house, Alim, and he's just his vibe and his demeanor is quite different. Yesterday, when you saw him, he was definitely rude. Would probably be the fairest description. However, some charm from Severin seemed to, soothe some ruffled feathers, and he was certainly polite yesterday, and he welcomed you in. This time, you wouldn't quite say he's fawning, but he definitely comes in. Oh, my friends, wonderful. How was your night last night? Did you sleep well? I see you're clean. I smell you're clean. Have you eaten well? He's speaking in South Town. Everybody can understand.
Tanya, answers not massively charmingly, but yes, succinctly says, yes, thank you, very comfortable.
Good. That pleases me. We pride ourselves here at the lodge to ensure that our honoured and welcome guests are comfortably accommodated. I wonder, may I join you? And he gestures towards a couple of spare seats at the head of the table.
Yep, Tanya consents, yep.
You'll forgive my somewhat hasty words yesterday. We see all types of things in the bazaar here, and clearly you had been on some hard journey, as you had intimated yesterday. I wanted to speak to you about and he looks around and looks at Askell, and he kind of nods approvingly at Askell's Arabic dress, and also towards Jadar with her covering, and nods again, and kind of almost buoyed by the fact of looking at the two Arab people, kind of buoys them along, and he says, yes, I very rarely ask this of guests, but I have a rather delicate situation that I wondered perhaps if you could assist me with. And he pauses.
Tanya kind of nods for him to go on.
Well, it's it's a bit of an embarrassing story. The reason I'm asking you this is I happened yesterday on my journey home to bump into some of my friends who work in the City Watch, and they told a fascinating story of your accomplishment yesterday. Some massive beast, some gold cat, I think it was, leaping down, and the masterful and very skillful way in which you managed to peacefully, and I stress the word peacefully, handle that situation. Nothing was harmed. The animal, I believe, was returned to its grateful owner without incident. And whoops, Daisy, I'm sharing the wrong screen on there. There we go. That's better. You managed to resolve things without blood being shed. So that got me thinking. You are clearly people of skill, and also capable of handling yourselves, and also capable of dealing with situations in a non-violent matter. And I have an issue, a delicate issue. And he kind of pauses. We have, well, a guest currently staying with us. His name is Ali Sultan. He is from the south, and there are some unkind rumors that he is one of those. He is one of them, a possible rejecter of the flesh, one of the Masa Daihast. And both Askell and Jadar, your ears prick up at this. A blasphemer, an infidel, one of the unclean ones, staying here. This is very strange. And just for background for Jadar and Askell, there's a little bit of information in your channel, should you care to have a look. And yes, Alan pauses. So this guest, he has stayed here, this man Ali has stayed here on a number of occasions. A dour, serious man who does enjoy the good things in life. He does not drink. He does not partake in pleasures of the flesh. He does not overeat. I'm sure, like many of the rejectors of the flesh, he whips himself. One of those. I don't know this for a fact, but I suspect he is one of these. Of course, all faiths are welcome in the mighty city of Jebai Ritana, but some are more welcome than others. Ali Sultan is a wealthy man. He pays very, very well. He stays in the best suite possible in this establishment, and not only that, he has spread the good word of this establishment to his friends, who also come and also pay very, very well. However, as mentioned, he is humorless. He is one of those. He is a rejecter of the flesh, and you can almost see him. You can almost see Alan spit at this. Allegedly a rejecter of the flesh. Allegedly Maso Daihast. And as such, he has created problems for us in the past. On the last occasion, there was a major argument that Ali Sultan caused of a religious nature here in our beautiful restaurant and common room. And a small fracas broke out, and indeed there was some trouble, and someone's arm was broken. He has a guard with him, you see. Ali Sultan has a bodyguard that accompanies him, a lethal man with a mask over his face, who goes everywhere with Ali Sultan. Ali Sultan became abusive, and things got out of hand. The brawl was contained, and other than an injured arm, a broken arm, there was certainly no further blood spilled. But it certainly created ill feeling. And Ali Sultan seemed to go out of his way to call out improprieties and things that his faith, or he did not agree with. Tomorrow night we have a series of dancers performing here at the lodge, exotic dancers, and they will be putting on quite a show. Tomorrow night, I said. Yes, tomorrow night. Many of our patrons, both our guests, but also many in this area, have come specifically for this. And I fear that Ali Sultan and his very vicious bodyguard will deliberately try to provoke trouble. I wondered if perhaps I could prevail on you, and of course you are honoured guests, and I feel uncomfortable even asking this, but bearing in mind your recent success at nullifying a dangerous situation peacefully, if I could prevail on you to find some way of keeping the peace, to avoid bloodshed, to make sure that Ali Sultan is not insulted, and that the dance and the dancers can proceed unmolested and without a fracas. In terms of what I can offer, I can offer half prices on your rooms, and my unending thanks. My thanks forever for solving what could be quite a challenging problem for me. Would you consider taking up my request?
Ooh. Oh, this. What do you think, guys? Doesn't really line up with my religion.
But I don't know. Does what language do we share, Jada? We've been hanging out a long time now, so I think we'd probably know that.
South Tongue.
The only language we share?
I'll let you guys figure that out. Anthony, I am mindful of the fact we are bang on 9 o'clock or almost that.
Yeah.
Timing for you?
Yeah, I've got to go too.
Yeah. Sort these rat bags out. Yeah, it might be one we have to ponder on. Maybe it's a discussion in South Tongue.
I know they'll understand us.
Do you
Or-
speak Westron?
Or do
Yeah.
we move away, or just put a signal to let us discuss in the corner or something? Or
Oh yeah, can we go and have a little talk somewhere? Does Tanya speak Westron?
She speaks three Elvish languages: South Tongue, Westron, Northron, Tongue of
Okay.
Turon, and Meltama.
Oh, Westron we share.
Yeah.
even if we just moved away, just politely say, "Well, move away," several
Okay.
feet away into a corner or something to discuss. I'm sure he
Okay,
wouldn't be offended.
Just worried this might come for like a backfire on us later on.
Yeah, I mean, there's no
That's
reason for
kind
us
of
to do that. I mean, there's no reason for us to do this. It doesn't suit
It's not really
suit
that much of a benefit. But what if it backfires the other way? Because we didn't help. But if you do it, then Jada probably shouldn't go because she's quite religious.
Yeah, I guess what I'm interested to know is what they meant by these non-believers. Like, who are we talking about exactly?
So they are part of the same faith as Jada and Askell, but there was a kind of a bit like the Catholics and the Protestants thing. There was an awful emperor, and then people started to question whether they were divine, and then they sort of split off. So basically, this religion, the rejectors of the flesh, just, if I read it right, they avoid alcohol, all that sort of stuff. Where is it? Alcohol. Wait, no, they. Oh, GM Chance, am I reading this wrong? Are they as Puma not into drinking and alcohol, and these guys are?
Other way around.
Other way around. Oh, it is. It's other way around.
Altumar is your faith. These are the Massa Die Hast, or the rejectors of the flesh. Well, alleged.
Alleged, which
yes.
used to be the same religion.
Which
but
used to be
branched off.
correct.
They do. They're not into polluting their flesh with sin. That's what it says on the thing.
Okay, but so they're not exactly. They're not a like a fanatic group. They're sort of just another
break off,
upright.
like a Shia
break-off.
Sunni thing, essentially.
Yeah. So there's
Well,
One other slight complication here. These people are called the Moors. So they, after the schism between the two, they fled down south, which is a long way away from the Empire of Thamasul, and they settled in a place where a guy called Roldan was born, and it was actually the currently where there are crusades being fought against the Moors by people who believe in the Roldanic faith to retake the land where Roldan was born. Just to chuck that into the mix.
Got getting strange echoes here. Okay. Well, I think Tanya will respectfully say, "Can I have a moment to
Oh, of course.
talk with my people?"
Naturally. And Alim gets and he bows. What is your name, mistress?
She gives him her pseudonym.
I will be waiting inside the common room, the restaurant, for your for your thoughts. I thank you, and again, I impress on you that this is not usual that we ask guests for such assistance. My thanks to you. May the gods be with you. He leaves.
So pros and cons. Obviously, we might find out a little bit more about this person. He may be of significance, may not be, but ultimately we cause. Really, we're just going to draw attention to ourselves, and this will probably go tits up in some way, right? So we don't really want to make a lot of noise in this place, do we? We just want to. We don't want to stand out. We don't want to do what we've done in other towns and end up on posters.
Also, if we don't go, it's going to go tits up though too.
Oh, we don't have to get it. We don't have to get involved, right? I think it's more a case of we might respectfully say, look, we are capable people, but we're new to the town. We don't want to get involved in schisms, and this may be more delicately handled by locals who are better able to communicate the subtleties of religious difficulties than us.
Nicholas has got a suggestion.
I'll ask you for a suggestion, Pete, but then I'm also going to call on Anthony to give us a heads up on timing. But go for it, Pete.
So Nicholas would propose, say, perhaps we could find out what means are acceptable to accomplish this. Because some people don't like magic, and some people are fine with it, and some people have got magical protection, so we need to discover those sorts of angles. But he has got a spell which is called Guilt, which target becomes guilty over some incident in his past, i.e. making a fuss, making a public scene about his religious beliefs. He will not perform such an action again and must take steps to overcome the guilt, rectifying the past wrong. So Nicholas' suggestion is if he could observe this guy, get within 100 meters of him, have 4 rounds to prepare, and is without magical alarms going off, without on the premises. I mean, who knows what this guy's going to have personally protecting him from spells. He could have a go at casting that if that's an acceptable thing for the owner.
Yeah, and I guess Jada and Askell, what is your knowledge of in this sort of society of magic and its acceptability culturally?
Actually, sure.
Yeah, well, I guess Askell is a warrior mage, so and he grew up in a port city, so it's not uncommon.
No,
so,
magic is magic for the Arabs, both the high and the low Arabs, particularly cosmopolitan, quite accepting of it. Exactly as you say, Askell. You go out to some of the desert tribes, some of the people in the deep deserts. Definitely accusations of sorcery and witchcraft, and you use magic in the wrong way or in the wrong setting, you could have problems. But cosmopolitan people and magic, generally not an issue.
Cool. Well, that's one take. I mean, that's perhaps a middle road. Instead of saying no, we could offer a less ostentatious way for us, hopefully, of accomplishing this. You could just say we have certain, sort of skills that have, that might sort of influence him to change his mind or to, but he might well have personal protection. Who knows?
All right.
I am going to, in deference to you, Anthony, you'd indicated you wanted to head off, and I think Starry, you did too. I'm happy to keep playing, but I think you were needing to head away. Do we want to call it there, guys?
Yeah, I'm happy to head away. Whether Graham and Pete want to.
I think
keep running some things.
Aren't going to be here. I think we should call it personally.
What could go wrong?
Yeah.
So there was this wing thing that came out of the lagoon.
Pretty much.
Absolutely, out of his brain
Oh.
or something, you know. Who knows?
Crossbow,
It did not
arrows,
grow 100.
Yeah.
cloaks.
Do we? A generally rule of thumb is if we get less than 3 players playing, then we generally knock it on the head. So
Okay.
should we leave it there? Then go, guys.
Yeah, I really need to.
Okay.
It's
for
lining up at
For
my
sure.
door.
For sure.
And it gives us an opportunity to discuss a plan during the week or weeks.
Yes.
Sure.
Yep. So a bit of a shorter session. Not vast amount to accomplish. More of a scene setting one, but there we go, guys. Really great to be back in the GMC. Delighted to be gaming with you again. And yeah, there we have it for tonight.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
All right.
you.
See you,
thanks,
folks.
Nice one. See you guys. Tune
We'll
in.
be
See you
around.
later. Bye.
Tune in next time. See you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye bye.